no public official, including the president, should use their office to enrich themselves or their supporters. With you, a free press isn't the enemy, but the way we hold officials accountable. They understand that in this democracy, the commander-in-chief does not use the men and women of our military who are willing to risk everything to protect our nation as political props to deploy against peaceful protesters on our own soil. To deploy against peaceful protesters on our own soil.
Chaos on the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin. Multiple buildings set on fire, including a Wisconsin Department of Corrections
to deploy against
building.
Peaceful protesters on our own soil.
Happened about 10 minutes ago, just as we were coming past, actually, up there on the hill, a man has been stabbed in the upper chest.
The thin blue line is tonight holding on by a thread.
To deploy against peaceful protesters on our own soil.
The news from Minneapolis, where there is this heavy confrontation, this heavy chaos on the streets. We've seen looting, we've seen extreme violence this morning, and again, these are the streets of America.
How you doing? For all those of you who don't know me, my name is L.J. Martin. In my nearly 40 years, I've been a field hand, a water company employee, a wrangler, a printer, cook, EPA inspector, and a half a dozen other get-by jobs. Later, a licensed real estate broker, appraiser, contractor, and even more lately, an author with lots of novels and some nonfiction works, about 67 now. And far more importantly, in regards to this video, just an old country boy who hunts, fishes, gardens, and who loves and respects God, his family, and his country. And as you watch this, and I hope you do, remember, I'm no plutocrat, no trust fund baby, no hotshot professor who's been trained by a long line of professors who've never ventured into the risk-return world, all of whom have gotten their paycheck at the end of the month, no matter what they've accomplished. Nope, my daddy left me a few empty whiskey bottles. I was raised on a latchkey kid in county housing, worked my way through 3 years of university, and I'm proud to say, never asked for or received a dime from the government, other than a paycheck while cooking as a fry cook in college for 1,600 students, then as an artist in the graphics department to get through school. It's a different time, and I may not have been able to say no government handouts if I were in business other than from my own home office during these unusual times. So this is not a crit of programs now designed to keep our economy working. And I'm not relating this all to you to toot my own horn, but rather to indicate that most of the whiners have nothing on me. I find it somewhat fascinating that those of us born white, although few of us are pure Caucasian, are now assumed to be racists. By many in government, by most in the press, and by far the majority in upper-level education. And the most heartbreaking of all, to me, is by far too many young folks. So let me tell you my side. I've had and have friends of all colors, raised playing high school football, wrestling, and participating in intramural sports in college, and in all those instances with lots of folks of color. Did I think of them black, or brown, or yellow, or red? No, I thought of them as teammates, or opponents. Do I think of Americans of color as something else? No, I think of them as Americans. Join us at our Thanksgiving table. It resembles the UN lunchroom. We have an element in this country who are trying to gain power by dividing us. I think they think it may be their last chance to do so, as more and more, no matter what they'd like us to believe, the country is melting together. How soon many of us forget that we had a two-term man of color as our president. Listen to those of color in the entertainment business. Listen to them whine. Then go to your television and surf channels. There's hardly an ad without a person of color. I had to laugh when watching an episode of one of my favorite shows, and there were 5 folks on the screen. 4 of them black. Sorry, Charlie. Common sense and my eyes tell me you whiners are hiding behind your color. Step out into the light. You and the country will be better off for it. Remember Dr. King's content of my character? How about relying on that? This is the country of opportunity, and if you don't take advantage of it, Padna, it's your own damn fault. Are you aware that a high school student who graduates with a B average has a much better chance of getting into a university if he's black? Those trying to destroy America play on tribalism, on the fear of others who we don't know, on our suspicions of anyone outside our family group, town, and yes, color. With most Americans, no matter what they'd have us believe, by far the majority of those tribal instincts were left in Scotland, Russia, China, Africa, or wherever they or their parents migrated from, our grandparents, as all but the red man did. Interesting that tribalism in Scotland and Africa never had much to do with color. They play on the fact many of color hide behind their color. Why? They may not have achieved what they wanted out of life, or may realize it's much easier to break a window and steal a $100 pair of Nike shoes than to work for that $100. They call white Americans racist and use a history of slavery as their example, forgetting to mention that 370,000 Union soldiers died in the Civil War, and 99% of them were white, to change that heinous status of many blacks. And don't mention that America wasn't the founder of slavery, but in many ways its executioner. Slavery was rampant in the world for 3,000 years before our Civil War, and 500,000 slaves were freedmen in America before the Emancipation Proclamation. And the great majority of those slaves who arrived in America were originally enslaved by other blacks. And no, that doesn't make it right or forgivable, but it also doesn't make it my fault or yours. In our time, the police are proclaimed to be racists, which is again amusing, as many police forces in America have a majority of officers of color. I've just watched a black man shot in the back several times, and riots ensue. The first question is, when you see an incident such as that, is, would he have been shot were he a white, Hispanic, Asian, or Native American? In 99.9% of the incidents, yes, he would. When an officer wants to go home to his family after work, he doesn't consider the color of an angry, spitting mad perp who he's told to stop several times, who he's told is under arrest, and who continues to charge his vehicle and reach in as if to retrieve a weapon. And no matter what people say. It doesn't matter whether there's a weapon there or not. If the officer reasonably believes that his life is in danger, he pulls it off. And that's the way it's got to be, or you won't have any officers on the job. If you don't want to be shot by the police, comply. It's as simple as that. It doesn't help when those we are supposed to admire, politicians, pastors, educators, look us in the eye and lie, lie, lie. I can only conclude they think you're too stupid to draw your own conclusions. Too stupid to believe your own eyes. Here's a prime example of a politician thinking you're too stupid to believe what you see, what's in front of your own eyes.
As peaceful protesters on our own soil.